Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is running into critical short-term support after playing out a further rejection from this critical area of resistance, as the price is now perfectly hitting my short-term bearish price targets, while Ethereum is still struggling around this level of resistance and is now flashing a new bearish signal in the short term, while this chart right here is about to flip. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before getting into the Bitcoin charts today, taking a look at the Bitcoin news today, and on Wednesday we saw another net inflow into the spot Bitcoin ETFs, but with that being said, the inflows are now slowing down from what we've seen earlier in the week. Because first of all, last week we were seeing more and more net inflows into the spot Bitcoin ETFs. It was gathering bullish momentum, and that was continuing also on the Monday and the Tuesday. But just on Wednesday, we actually saw around half as many inflows compared to Tuesday. And so, of course, if the inflows are losing momentum, if they're starting to reverse back towards the bearish direction, so back towards less inflows or potentially even outflows, then that would be more bearish if we're seeing less inflows and potentially if we're moving towards outflows, which as of right now, the net inflows have not reversed into outflows, but they are moving in that direction based on what we've seen on Wednesday. And with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, looking at the 3-day time frame, and right now, not much has really changed on the 3-day Bitcoin chart over the last 1 day, because at least as of right now, despite the short-term pullback, we're still technically within a much larger bullish trend on the larger time frames with this massive hidden bullish divergence with higher lows in the price and lower lows in the RSI. And so once again, on the larger time frames, in terms of the trend and momentum on the larger time frames, we're still looking very, very bullish. But of course, as I always say, during a larger bullish trend, on smaller time frames, we can see short-term pullbacks from time to time, which is very normal to see even during a larger bullish trend. And so as always, it's important to understand the difference between the different time frames. For example, on a larger time frame like the 3-day chart, we can still be looking very bullish as we are right now. But of course, on a smaller time frame like the 1-hour chart, for example, that can flip more bearish in the short term from time to time. But that does not necessarily contradict what's happening on the larger time frames, because once again, the larger time frames contain the smaller time frames within the larger moves. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart right here, as of right now, the RSI is still looking more bullish than bearish, showing some bullish momentum on the daily time frame. So once again, in terms of the larger move that is playing out and basically the overall trend at the moment, we are still technically looking more bullish than bearish on the larger time frames when we're zooming out. And if we're taking a look at the DXY, what we are now seeing just in the short term, and I did mention this in my last video here on the channel, we're starting to see a bit of a short-term bounce back to the upside in the DXY, which at least in the short term for Bitcoin is a bearish signal. And once again, I mentioned that in my last video here on the channel, warning that this could be a bit of a bearish signal if we see more of a bounce here. But overall, the DXY has been trending more bearish than bullish over the last few weeks. And so overall, when we're talking about the larger move in the DXY, because this has been bearish over the last few weeks, the price of Bitcoin has been more bullish over the last few weeks. And so, of course, if we see a continuation of that pullback in the DXY with another pullback sometime soon in the DXY, then of course that would be bullish for Bitcoin and crypto, as we've seen just here and also previously time and time again. But this is definitely something worth paying attention to in the DXY, because if the pullback is actually over in the DXY and we continue to see more of a bounce back to the upside in the DXY, then that would basically tell us that this short-term bullish trend right here on the daily time frame might already be over if we see more of a bullish reversal in the DXY. But at least for now, that has not yet happened. We're still forming lower highs and lower lows in the DXY, but at the moment, we're just seeing a bit of a short-term bounce, which is a short-term bearish signal for Bitcoin. But as always, I'll keep you up to date on what's happening here in the DXY and many other important charts in these videos every day. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, we can see over the last few days, we've seen a perfect rejection from pretty much exactly $72,000. And obviously, even before the price hit that level, I've been talking about how we have a lot of resistance at around 72 to 74,000, which is exactly where the price ran into and started to struggle at. And so obviously we still have a lot of resistance in that area, which I've been talking about once again. But as for support, because we've continued that rejection from that resistance, we are now running into this previous area of resistance, now acting as new support, sitting in between around 67,000 to 68,000. And it is quite important that the price holds above this area on the chart, because otherwise, if we start to see a daily candle close or multiple daily candle closes back below 67,000, then that would be a strong bearish signal, at least in the short term, telling us that we could potentially retrace all the way back down towards this area, at least back down towards around 64,000, give or take. But obviously, at least at the time of recording this video, we have not yet confirmed a break below 67,000. So at least for now, there's still the possibility that we still find support in this area and potentially bounce from this area. And in that case, if we do end up bouncing from this area of support, obviously that would be good news in the short term. And in that case, the price would potentially just be in this sideways price range right here, in between this area of support and this area of resistance, at least in the shorter term. But remember, when we're zooming out on a larger time frame like the 3-day chart, even if we break below 67,000 and return to say 64,000, we can still be looking very bullish again on the larger time frames. We can remain bullish that entire time, even if we see that short-term pullback, because obviously we see short-term pullbacks over and over again in the price of Bitcoin during this larger bullish trend. But if we're zooming all the way into the 1 hour Bitcoin chart, like I said in my last video, we have this new symmetrical triangle pattern, also known as a horizontal triangle pattern in the price of Bitcoin. And that support line was sitting at roughly around 69,500. And that line of resistance for this triangle pattern was sitting at roughly around 70,500. And I mentioned in my last video, once we confirm a break either below support or above resistance, that would set up the next short-term price target. And the moment we confirmed this break to the downside below that line of support, with candle closes to the downside below that line of support, and even better, we came back up to retest that line and saw another rejection from that line, confirming it as a new resistance, which further confirmed the break to the downside. Basically, once we saw those confirmation signals that we were breaking to the downside from this pattern, at that point right there, when we were breaking below these lows, that set up the bearish price target for this pattern, which once again, as I said in my last video, was sitting at around 66.9k. And we can see here that the price of Bitcoin, as soon as we broke below around 69,000, the price pretty much straight away head towards around 67,000 approximately, basically hitting this exact technical price target and running into this area of support, which is what I talked about in my last video if we were to break below 69,000. And so this was also a potential trading opportunity in the short term. And in case you're new to all of this, how we can use this as a trading opportunity is basically once we have the bearish confirmation that we are actually breaking below this support, we can use that right there to start entering into a short position if we're breaking below support, and basically trade the break to the downside towards the price target and take profits at the price target. And if you did that, you obviously made a lot of easy profits here in the short term if you took that short-term trading strategy. And personally, I would have taken that short-term trade right there if I were not already in a trade in the price of Bitcoin, because as I've said recently here on the channel and basically every day over the last couple of weeks since the price was below $60,000, I've been saying that right around these lows, I have already accumulated a long position in the price of Bitcoin, and I have already secured profits out of that long position, and the stop loss is already sitting in profits as well. But the idea around this long position right here in my trading strategy was not to have it as a short-term trade, but more of a swing trade, looking to potentially trade the larger moves on the larger time frames. And so that's why I did not close this trade at this first little pump right here, or this second pump, or this third pump, because once again, I'm looking to capture the entire larger movement, not an individual pump in the price of Bitcoin. But along the way, in order to secure profits, once again, as we're running into resistance points, like for example, when we ran into this area and also around 72,000, I did take profits around those areas, as you can see right here. And once again, my stop loss is also sitting well into profits, which means in the worst case scenario, if this bullish move fails on the larger timeframes and we actually see a break back to the downside, even in that worst case scenario for this long position, I'm still coming away with some decent profits. And so that's just been my personal trading strategy over the last couple of weeks. And obviously you can see it has been working well so far over the last couple of weeks. But as always, that is my trading strategy, not personal financial advice for you, because I don't know your personal financial situation. But if you also want to take trades just like this, no matter if the price is bullish or bearish, you can use a long position like this or a short position to trade a bearish move. Either way, if you want to take these trades, check out this exchange, which I'm trading on right now, which is Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. And also, if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim an exclusive 200 USDT airdrop position just by making a Bybit account using that link, making a deposit and claiming the airdrop. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can still see some liquidity to the upside at around 72,000, give or take. But we're actually now starting to see some more liquidity build to the downside, mainly sitting in between around 65,500 to 65.8k. And so just keep that in mind. It is a possibility just in the short term that we could hit that liquidity and then potentially bounce, or just hit that liquidity and continue lower. Either way, it is quite likely that we could hit that level before choosing the next direction. But ultimately, if we do not confirm this break to the downside below 67,000 with candle closes below that level, for example, if we just see a candle wick to the downside and a quick bounce back up, then we could still be looking more bullish in the short term, but this could be decided very soon. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, I mentioned a couple of days ago here on the channel that the funding rates are actually starting to get overheated. They're looking a little bit more bearish at the moment rather than bullish like they were around a week ago. Because roughly around 1 week ago, the funding rates were negative, which basically means a lot of traders were looking to short the market, and that's where we saw a lot of traders get liquidated out of their short positions, causing a short squeeze, which is bullish for the price. But once again, that is what we were seeing in the funding rates around 1 week ago, whereas right now it is the opposite. The funding rates are overheated. They are above neutral, which is potentially one of the reasons why we are now seeing a short-term pullback to liquidate some of those late or over-leveraged long positions. And so once again, this has been one of the reasons as to why I've taken a little bit of profits off the table just recently in my Bitcoin long position, which I have been sharing recently here on the channel. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, right now the price of ETH has not yet invalidated the breakout to the upside for this bullish falling wedge. And so technically speaking, we still have this price target in play at around 40.70. But obviously, with that being said, at this point, the price has gotten very close to the price target. So obviously, I would not necessarily want to enter a new trade looking to just trade that little move towards the price target, because we've already come very close to the price target. But technically, this breakout and that price target only invalidates if we actually see a break back below this point of the breakout, which is at roughly around 3.2k. And so on the daily time frame, at least as of recording this video, we can still remain more bullish than bearish, even if we see a short-term pullback. But if we're zooming into this 8-hour time frame, we can see that right now the price is still rejecting pretty much exactly from this Fibonacci level of resistance that I've been warning about over and over again here on the channel, sitting at around 38.20. And so once again, as I've said yesterday and the day before, this is still strong resistance in the short term for the price. So we should still be expecting some rejections potentially, or the price struggling around this area. And as for short-term support, we do have support in this price range in between around 3.6k to 36.50. But if we were to see a break below that area with candle closes below that area, then in that case, we have more support at around 34.50 and more support at around 3.3k. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame right now, a new bearish divergence is now playing out for the price of ETH. And just like the funding rates being the opposite right now compared to a week ago, this bearish divergence is also basically the exact opposite as to what we were seeing around 1 week ago. Because roughly around 1 week ago, we were indeed seeing a new bullish divergence, which was bullish for the price. But now we're seeing the opposite, a new bearish divergence, which means we are losing bullish momentum. And so a bearish divergence most commonly plays out in the form of either a short-term pullback or some choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes potentially over the next few days. And so just keep that in mind. In the short term, this is currently playing out, at least as of right now. And if we're taking a look at ETH versus BTC, this is Ethereum versus Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. And as of right now, this is actually playing out a massive bullish divergence, which is very significant. This is on the weekly time frame, remember? So this has been forming over multiple months, nearly 1 whole year. And this downtrend in ETH BTC has been playing out for nearly 2 entire years. And we're getting to the point where we are extremely close to potentially flipping the downtrend into a bullish trend if we see a confirmed breakout above this descending line of resistance and ideally above these previous highs. And first of all, this descending line of resistance is currently sitting at around 0.0575 Bitcoin per Ethereum, and these previous highs are sitting at roughly around 0.061 Bitcoin per Ethereum. And so basically ETH BTC needs to pump around 4% to run into this resistance, or around 9 to 10% in order to start breaking out above these previous highs. And so as of right now, once again, we are getting very close to potentially seeing a multi-year bearish trend flip into a new bullish trend on the larger timeframes if the price of ETH versus BTC breaks above these levels on the chart. And once again, if that happens, that would basically change everything that we've seen over the last couple of years, pointing towards Ethereum potentially once again outperforming Bitcoin rather than Bitcoin outperforming Ethereum like what we've seen over the last couple of years. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the price of Solana on the 8-hour time frame, and right now the rejection from this area of resistance is continuing, similar to Bitcoin at the moment, continuing that short-term rejection. And as of right now, the price of Solana is still running into this area of support in between 167 to 172. But if we start breaking below around 167 with candle closes, then in that case, we'll likely return down towards around 160. And that is a critical level to hold, because if we start breaking back below 160, then at least in the short term, that would be a fairly strong bearish signal, basically invalidating this inverse head and shoulders pattern and invalidating that price target to the upside, which by the way is sitting at around $208. So once again, if we confirm a break to the downside below 160 with candle closes below that level, that price target would become invalidated. And in that case, we would likely see a drop down towards this next area of support in between 140 to 144. And below that, we have this significant area of support in between 120 to 128. And as for short-term resistance, in case we actually see a bounce at one of these levels of support, we do have resistance in this area, once again, in between around 182 to 187 approximately, and more resistance in between around $200 to $210. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can use long positions and short positions to make money if the price is bullish or bearish. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.